So you asked about how I was diagnosed with EDS and Fowler syndrome. Well, that is quite a long story, but in a nutshell, I was actually diagnosed with POTS first, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and then they knew that POTS was down to something else, so they were looking for a reason for the POTS. And then they looked at my joints, my bladder, my bowel, my autonomic nervous system, my bones, though that was linked to something else, that was linked to osteoporosis, and they realised that it was all connected. So my joint problems, my bladder problems, my bowel problems, my autonomic nervous system problems, my skin problems, but it took years to be diagnosed properly, and I was told you probably, like, most definitely have it, but I didn't have an official diagnosis for another, like, year and a bit because it took so long on the NHS, and eventually I actually saw someone privately to get the official diagnosis, and then I was referred back to the NHS. But for me, it was about, I know it sounds cliche, but connecting, literally connecting the issues, not, they will say if you can't connect the tissues, connect the issues. Or is it the other way around, connect the issues, connect the tissues, one of those way arounds. And the tests that help were seeing rheumatology, obviously the Brighton score, but I think it's so important to say that it's not just about joints. So some people it may affect the joints more than others, some people it may affect the joints less than others, but for me it was the full organ involvement, so not just the joints, but the bladder, the bowel, the skin, the heart, the lungs, everything basically. And then I got officially diagnosed by a rheumatologist, and yeah, let me know kind of more specific questions if you want to know more specific questions. But it was back and forth to doctors. I had bladder problems since I was a child, a young child, and bowel problems, and then falling over problems, clumsiness, fainting, heart problems, but they were never enough to be a problem on their own. They were dealt with as individual problems, and it was linked to growing pains, periods, anxiety, hormones, appendicitis, gynae problems. You know, it never, people never put stuff together.
Do you say you open your bowel as a woman?
Yeah.
Is it type 7?
Yes, definitely. But it's quite a lot, I'd say, medium. I've forgotten where I was now. So yeah, no one ever put the issues together, basically. They dealt with them as individual issues, and they weren't bad enough until they got into my late teens, and then things got worse and worse and worse. And then with Fowler's syndrome and neurogenic bladder, I had bladder problems since I was a child, again, with recurrent UTIs and kidney infections, with retaining urine, and at first just a little bit, like 50 mils, 100 mils, it got more and more and more as I got older. And then urodynamics is how I was diagnosed, which for me were really traumatic. I find urodynamics really difficult, but eventually I did do it with support, and then that's how I got the diagnosis, and by a urologist as well. But I did start a series last year on TT, on all my social medias. I started a series where I did how I got on well, and I started right from the beginning, and I've done about six episodes so far. Would you like me to post about it more, like post it again? So I started it about a year ago, and it started from literally when I first ever got on well up till now, and I was only up to like 2014, 15, but I've done 6 episodes so far, so I thought maybe I'd repost those videos again. So let me know if you'd like me to do that. But it's quite interesting hearing about it from the beginning, so maybe I'll post them again. But yeah, with any diagnosis, I'm sorry you're struggling at the minute. And you said about intestinal failure. Intestinal failure is another long one, because I was diagnosed with gastroparesis first, which is obviously a paralysed stomach, basically, that in the simple terms, but it means when I would eat, food would go into my stomach and sit there and not move. The muscles wouldn't push it through the body. And then I got diagnosed with intestinal dysmotility, and I also had very bad backwards reverse peristalsis. And then it moved on to intestinal failure, but that was over a course of a long time, years and years and years. It didn't happen overnight. And the way that I got diagnosed was, again, by tests and seeing the gastroenterologist, different ones, and eventually finding a good team who understood me and supported me and believed me, and specialist nurses. And you know your body, and something's wrong, keep fighting for it. You know your body best, you're your best advocate. But I know it's exhausting, I know it's relentless sometimes. You think you're hitting your head against a brick wall and blood's going to be normal, and you think, am I going mad? You're not going mad. You are believed. Your symptoms are real. Your symptoms matter. It can be complex to find the exact diagnosis and the right test to diagnose that, but I promise you're not. Your symptoms matter, they are real, and I hear you and I believe you, and it's so important. Because I remember when someone said that to me, I just burst into tears, especially when I took years to be diagnosed with the gastroparesis and intestinal dysmotility. A nurse walked in and said, I believe you, Ruth, like, you're not going mad. And that meant so much. Any other specific questions, just let me know. and I will happily answer. Right, just finishing off. Right, I'm going to put a little cap on to finish. Done.